Chapter 1. The Hijacking. Some stories sound too unbelievable to be true, but every detail you're about to hear is based on real events. On November 24th, 1971, an ordinary passenger boarded a commercial flight in Portland, Oregon. Within just a few hours, he would carry out one of the most daring hijackings in aviation history, then disappear without a trace. This is the mystery of D.B. Cooper. It was the afternoon before Thanksgiving, one of the busiest travel days in America. Passengers filled the terminal at Portland International Airport, excited to reunite with their families. Among the crowd was a well-dressed man in a black business suit, carrying a simple black briefcase. He introduced himself as Dan Cooper and purchased a one-way ticket for Northwest Orient Flight 305 to Seattle. Nothing about him seemed unusual. He quietly boarded the Boeing 727, took a seat near the rear of the aircraft, ordered a bourbon and soda, lit a cigarette, and calmly watched the passengers around him. No one realized they were sitting beside a man who was about to make history. Scene 1120, the note. Once the aircraft reached cruising altitude, Cooper calmly signaled for a flight attendant. She walked over, expecting nothing more than another routine passenger request. Instead, Cooper handed her a folded note. At first she assumed it was simply a phone number from a businessman trying to flirt. She slipped it into her pocket. Cooper leaned toward her and quietly said, "You'd better read that note." She unfolded the paper. The message was short. "I have a bomb." To prove he wasn't bluffing, Cooper slowly opened his briefcase just enough for her to glimpse what appeared to be an explosive device. The atmosphere changed instantly. Cooper remained remarkably calm. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten the passengers. He simply explained what he wanted. $200,000 in cash and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle after landing. The flight crew quietly informed the pilots. Authorities were secretly alerted. Meanwhile, the passengers continued reading newspapers, chatting, and looking out the windows, completely unaware that their flight had become the center of an unfolding crisis. After nearly 2 hours in the air, Flight 305 landed safely in Seattle. Police, FBI agents, and airport officials waited on the ground. Following Cooper's instructions, the ransom money and 4 parachutes were delivered to the aircraft. One by one, the passengers were released. Not a single person had been harmed. As the cabin emptied, only the flight crew and the mysterious hijacker remained. But Cooper wasn't finished yet. Cooper ordered the aircraft back into the sky. This time, only the crew remained on board. Outside, heavy rain and darkness covered the Pacific Northwest. Inside the cabin, Cooper secured the money bag and prepared a parachute. Then he walked toward the rear staircase. Moments later, the crew noticed something unusual. The rear stairs had been lowered while the aircraft was still flying. Powerful wind rushed into the cabin, and somewhere over the dark forest below, D.B. Cooper vanished into the night. No confirmed trace of him has ever been found, but the mystery was only beginning. Chapter 2. The investigation begins. As Flight 305 landed safely, FBI agents and local authorities rushed toward the aircraft. But the man they were looking for was no longer there. The mysterious hijacker had vanished into the cold, rainy night. Inside the cabin, investigators searched every seat, every compartment, and every inch of the aircraft for evidence. There were no fingerprints that could identify him. No wallet, no passport, no personal belongings. Only a few small clues remained. A black clip-on tie, a pearl tie clip, and several cigarette butts left behind during the flight. The FBI quickly launched one of the largest investigations in American history. The operation was given the code name NORJAC, short for Northwest Hijacking. Agents interviewed the passengers, the flight attendants, the pilots, and everyone who had seen the man calling himself Dan Cooper. Using those eyewitness accounts, forensic artists created a detailed composite sketch. Within days, his face appeared in newspapers, television reports, and police stations across the country. Thousands of tips flooded into the FBI. Some callers believed they knew Cooper. Others claimed they had seen him after the jump. Every lead was investigated. Search teams combed the forests of Washington state. Helicopters searched from the sky. Boats scanned nearby rivers. But despite weeks of searching, nothing, no parachute, no money bag, no body, no confirmed trace of D.B. Cooper. It was as if he had disappeared without leaving a single footprint behind. The investigation continued for years. Hundreds of suspects were questioned, but none of them could be proven to be the mysterious man who hijacked Flight 305. Then, nearly 9 years later, a shocking discovery would bring the case back into the headlines once again.
Chapter 3: The Money That Reappeared. Nearly 9 years passed. The investigation had slowed. Most people believed the mystery would never be solved. Then, on February 10th, 1980, everything changed. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was camping with his family along the Columbia River. As he played in the sand, he noticed something strange buried beneath the surface. At first, it looked like nothing more than a decayed bundle of old paper. But when it was uncovered, it turned out to be stacks of $20 bills. The discovery shocked everyone. The money was quickly sent to the FBI for examination. Investigators carefully compared the serial numbers with the official ransom list from 1971. The result was astonishing. Every serial number matched. It was part of the exact $200,000 that D.B. Cooper had received nearly 9 years earlier. For the first time since the hijacking, the case finally had a break. News of the discovery spread across America. People began asking the same question once again. If the money was here, what happened to D.B. Cooper? Did he survive the jump? Did he die in the wilderness? Or had someone secretly buried the money years later? The discovery raised far more questions than it answered. And even today, no one knows exactly how that money reached the banks of the Columbia River. The mystery had become deeper than ever.
Chapter 4: The Suspects. The discovery of the ransom money brought new life to the investigation. Over the years, the FBI examined hundreds of suspects. Some were former soldiers, some were experienced skydivers, others had aviation knowledge, but a few names stood out more than the rest. One of the earliest suspects was Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. Just a few months after the D.B. Cooper hijacking, McCoy carried out a remarkably similar skyjacking using a Boeing 727. He demanded ransom money, then escaped by parachute. The similarities were impossible to ignore, but investigators also found important differences. Witnesses described D.B. Cooper as older than McCoy, and McCoy had a strong alibi during the Cooper hijacking. Another well-known suspect was Kenneth Christensen. He had worked for Northwest Orient Airlines. He understood aircraft operations, and after the hijacking, some people believed his lifestyle had suddenly changed. No physical evidence ever connected him to the crime. Years later, attention shifted to Robert Rackstraw, a former military pilot with parachuting experience. His background matched many of the skills investigators believed Cooper might have had. But despite years of speculation, the evidence was never strong enough to identify him as D.B. Cooper. Many other names were investigated over the decades. Each suspect seemed to answer a few questions, while creating even more. The FBI interviewed witnesses, examined documents, collected DNA evidence, and followed thousands of leads. But every investigation ended the same way, without a definitive answer. Even today, no one knows whether D.B. Cooper survived the jump or who he really was. The mystery remains one of the greatest unsolved cases in FBI history. Chapter 5: The Final Mystery. In 2016, after decades of investigation, the FBI officially closed its active investigation into the D.B. Cooper case. The decision wasn't because the mystery had been solved. It was because every available lead had been exhausted. Over the years, investigators analyzed fingerprints, compared DNA evidence, studied parachutes, examined recovered ransom money, and followed thousands of tips from across the country. Yet none of the evidence revealed the true identity of D.B. Cooper. Some believe he survived the jump, escaping with the ransom and living the rest of his life in secret. Others believe the harsh wilderness, freezing weather, and dangerous terrain made survival impossible. Without definitive evidence, both theories remain possible. More than half a century later, the D.B. Cooper hijacking continues to inspire books, documentaries, films, podcasts, and endless debate. It remains the only unsolved commercial airline hijacking in American history. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't how D.B. Cooper disappeared, but how he managed to stay anonymous for so long. Until undeniable evidence is discovered, the legend of D.B. Cooper will continue to live on.